Hello, everybody. Welcome back to the Prospero.ai stock market live streams. Happy Wednesday, everybody. I see we already have some regulars in the chat with JC and Tim saying hello. Hello to you two. Good to see you both here today. As we start the stream here, the QQQ is heading up into the green. The SPY as well. Dow Jones still in the red and the Russell in the red as well. So we have a split market here today. As we are set to begin the stream, we have some stocks to follow up on from our Monday's live stream. We have a bunch of great stories, and we're even going to be joined by a doctor here today. I see him. Mr. Matt is here. What's up? Hey, Matt.
What's up, man? Can you hear me?
Yeah, we got you. Welcome to the stream.
George just got off a podcast. I'm here in New York hanging out with him, working on some hedge fund stuff. So he told me to come sit in the chair until he's ready.
Really cool. Well, I have to say, Matt, I mean, I love having you here, but your shirt isn't really on George's level. I don't know.
Man, nobody can hang with George when it comes to shirts. I'll tell you a funny story. We were in Phoenix, Arizona, working with some Prospero investors, and man, it was like a suburb of Phoenix, and it was kind of out in the country, man. I mean, it was country, and he was wearing one of his crazy shirts, and we walked into a Walmart because he needed some protein shakes or something. And my man, people were staring at him like he was from Mars, but they just didn't know it was cool.
Yeah, he's just ahead of the times here.
No question.
So how long are you going to be in New York, and what are you going to be bringing up on the stream today?
Yeah, man. So we're going to be talking about a little bit about net option sentiment. It's been an interesting, I don't know, how long, Stephen, has the net option sentiment for SPY been at zero?
I mean, I feel like for a lot of the second half of 2025, it was low. And for all of 2026, I feel like it's been pinned at zero for sure.
Yeah. So basically, I mean, we can talk about this later, but SPY and QQQ net option sentiment is why I got into Prospero. And just watching that, get my brain around that, seeing it be bullish or bearish, started trading off of those levels. But then as you just said, man, over the last couple of months, it stayed at zero. So there's kind of a different dynamic going on. But, and we sound alert. Gosh, that would have been on the 6th. So that would have been last week when we got that big bounce, I believe in QQQ and SPY. You know, the market just jumped, but net option sentiment didn't budge. And so we sent out an alert that said, I grabbed it here. It said, despite this bounce, our net option sentiment hasn't budged. SPY's at zero. QQQ is just a dead cat bounce. We had some comments, man. We felt like we needed to address them. And so that's why I'm here. George will be here in a minute. You can go on with the intro to the show. But man, we're going to dissect net option sentiment a little bit, how to trade it, how to read it. Hopefully people will find it informative.
That's great. That sounds awesome. I wanted to ask also, speaking about the whole market, as we have Tim joining us, NW, Nick all in the chat as well. Nick said, that's not George. No, this is the doctor. Mr. Matt is joining us on the stream today, if you're just tuning in now. Yeah, Matt.
For those of you that don't know me, I write the Sunday newsletter, or a big portion of it, and know George from that. So,
yes. But as you were saying with the QQQ and SPY, I want to ask George, you know, is the bull market over? Because we've been chopping around in both of the indices for 3 months now. And after having such bullish momentum for multiple years, you have to ask yourself, like, are we going to be heading into an overall pullback in the markets and maybe a bear market, which I don't think we've been in since 2021. So the clock is ticking. We know they're going to happen eventually. And with the SPY and QQQ being low, we definitely have to ask about that. This guy's asking in the chat, any stocks you are currently looking into? I believe you liked ASTS when it was 2. So your reputation.
Yeah, that's impressive. That's impressive that whoever that is, this guy, 2622. Yes, I introduced our infamous CEO, George Kalis, to ASTS back in the day. He made fun of me about it when I first talked to him about it, but he came around. We put it into the signals. I think I got in at maybe $4. Done really well on ASTS this year. Any other stocks I'm looking into? Man, I'm interested in CMPS. It's a psychedelic stock. It's a company I think is going to be first to market. They're in their phase 3 trials for PTSD, and they're having some really, really good results for curing depression. I actually talked to a dude that was in the phase 2 trial, and it said one dose of it, no side effects, completely cured him of his depression. And it had been like 6 months and still gone. And we put that ticker on not too long ago, Stephen, and on Prospero, and it's showing some interesting things. I think the Trump administration is sort of pro psychedelics, and so I'm looking at CMPS as a long-term hold. Man, what else am I looking at right now? I don't know. But to go back to what you just said, is the market turning over? You know, I looked at the 4-hour chart earlier this morning, and the 4-hour chart is making lower highs, and so I think we could potentially be seeing it decline.
Yeah, and without like these few mega caps that have kept it afloat, there's a lot underneath the surface that have seemingly already had very big pullbacks. And I'm going to bring up a couple of stocks that had earnings that are dropping big also on the stream today. To follow up on your CMPS stock pick, I always like to do this when we bring up stocks in sectors that are high growth sectors where maybe you don't want to buy a single stock, but you want to buy a basket because you don't know who the winners are going to be just yet. There's this psychedelic ETF called, well, the ticker is PSIL. And I just looked in it, and CMPS is their third biggest holding, but they got a bunch of them. So if anybody's
what are their first two holdings? Can you see what their first two holdings are?
Yeah, it's how do I say this? Atai Beckley and Definium Therapeutics.
Okay, yeah. So we put ATAI, we put that on Prospero also, and it's showing decent signals. And so what's that ETF again? I may buy some of that.
The ticker is PSIL.
PSIL. And somebody asked, what do they use ibogaine in phase 3? I'm not sure, man. I don't know a lot about the specifics of the medicine behind it. I know it's not like people are getting high or anything on it. It's a micro dose, but they're having some really, really good results with it. And I'd be shocked if they don't get that fast track FDA approved. But don't go all in on it because it's still kind of a moonshot right now. But man, some of the better analysts have CMPS as a $30 stock over the next year. And so I think I've got a small position in it.
Good stuff there. And now we got to keep your track record. ASTS is a hit. We'll see how CMPS goes throughout the rest of the year. I don't know. With this market, though, a stock like that, it makes me a little bit nervous, but we shall see. Maybe their time will come. I also want to bring up on the stream today, LEU, one of the 2 stock picks of the year. And George on the stream Monday said he was kind of rooting for the stock to pull back off earnings because he wanted to get back in. And I think I saw a update come through that exact thing played out. So we'll have to get his thoughts on the latest of LEU. It looks like he did take a position after it dipped, and just how confident he still is in it after this pullback, with the earnings having been reported. Then we are in a dawn of a new era. Prediction markets are taking over. It is the gold rush. I have some statistics about Kalshi and their Super Bowl. And, I think a funny way to phrase this topic is like, the older generations, they had JP Morgan, Bank of America, Wells Fargo. Our generation, we got Kalshi, Polymarket, Robinhood. It's like everybody is gambling, and these are the biggest or the fastest growing companies in that space now. So what does that tell you about the sign of the times? I don't know.
I personally hate gambling with all my, I just hate it. I don't know what it is about it. I love investing. I hate gambling. Just no good at it. And last night, George and I went to a Knicks game. True story, man. We ended up sitting by this guy. I don't remember his name. George connected with him on LinkedIn, but he was a true story, man. He was probably 33, 34 years old. He was a Saudi billionaire with a B. And that dude was super nice. And we started talking to this guy. And man, next thing you know, I pull out Robinhood, and he's trying to get me to bet money on the Knicks game. And I'm like, let's do this, man. So I threw down $100 on the Knicks when there was like 2 minutes left. Sure enough, Knicks come back, go to halftime. Me and this Saudi billionaire, we're going crazy, man. But anyway, I ended up losing the $100. he gave me $50 in cash. Don't tell my wife that I lost $100. So
That's hysterical. Oh my goodness.
true
What?
story.
Wow, that's an interesting person to meet.
I got pictures. It was awesome.
Mm-hmm.
I was hoping he was a prince, like a Saudi prince or whatever. He wasn't. He was just a rich dude from Saudi Arabia. I think his dad owns like one of the traveling conglomerates, like an air. It was cool. It was good, interesting guy to talk to. He said to buy Ethereum, is what he said.
Interesting. NW in the chat saying 11 to 17-year-old boys are now gambling regularly. Not great.
I agree with that.
This is why, I mean, I said a little tongue in cheek, and it's half a joke, half not, about like the prior generation, JP Morgan, our generation, really is like, these are the companies that people are putting all of their energy and time into. And it's so a part of the culture these days. It's really, it seems to be a concerning trend, but I don't know how it resolves.
It's interesting. I read an article. I honestly don't remember, but the argument of the article was that the average kind of middle class blue collar guy is having trouble making ends meet, and so he's turning to that not necessarily as just an entertainment outlet, but a way to make ends meet. And if that's the case, it really is dangerous. And so, kind of love what we do here at Prospero, just helping people learn how to invest in a way that they can make significant life-changing money.
That point you just made, that's what I'm so curious about, because I think you're right that people are doing it as like a moonshot, but nobody makes money gambling. So I'm not sure, like...
you're playing against the house. I'm sorry I laughed. I was JC Valhalla. Was like the Saudis are subsidizing mass gambling habit. It's true. They did. I appreciate it too. Man, I don't know. It's going to be interesting to see. I mean, my oldest son is 26. He's in medical school. All his buddies are into it. I think it started with, golly, I'm going blank. What's it called? Fantasy football, right? Where people don't necessarily root for teams anymore, but they now they're going for whoever they bet on.
It's so true. We also have a few Discord questions to get to on the stream today. If anybody new is watching in here, first of all, hit that subscribe button if you're watching on YouTube. Follow us on X, and also like the stream if you're excited for the topics today. But we regularly get to the Discord questions, which is linked in the YouTube description if you haven't joined it yet. And we'll be getting to a few different topics that were there today. If we have time, we'll see. If not, we'll carry them over to Monday's, or actually Tuesday's stream next week, because Monday is closed in the stock market. But we'll get to TMC stock, which has been a popular discussion on the streams recently. I'm going to pull them up and see how they're doing right now. Ever since George brought them up about the underwater mining. And I think that...
By the way, while you're doing that, if y'all are new on the stream, George is coming. I'm just here sitting in his chair. So
this topic is interesting because they were bringing up the fact that they think it's going to have trouble with regulatory pressure with seabed biodiversity and all these types of things. But then they also brought up another interesting point of how nuclear faced similar troubles. But then once the lobbies got big enough from tech, like now there's no more trouble, and we see all this push toward nuclear. So could that happen? Would there be a lobby that would support this if that were to come to fruition? Then we have how to decide to enter a stock when it has gone on a run. And I think this is a great topic we see this a lot in the Prospero signals where a stock is running, and typically it's a stock that maybe if you're a more traditional investor, you'd be like, all right, I want to take profits here, but our signals have maintained strength and we're even adding them sometimes. So how do you decipher how to manage positions like that? And W said, great question. I'm glad
I can talk on it for just a couple of seconds, man. Because I've experienced that with ASTS. I started trading in 2022 during a bear market, and so I didn't trade in 20. When everything was going crazy. I didn't trade in 21 during the massive bull market. I started trading in a bear market, and so every time I made a trade, it went down. And I think it scarred me psychologically. I have PTSD. And so one of my biggest issues is I take profit too quickly. And I ended up making a lot of money on ASTS, but I definitely would pull the trigger too soon. So if the discipline that I have gotten to in a bull market is I will take profit at about a little bit of profit. I'll trim at 25%, or if it's hitting a resistance line. And so if there's like a known resistance that it's bouncing off of, I'll trim 25%. If it breaks through that resistance and keeps going and then rejects off of it and goes, I'll just leave it alone. But man, if it breaks down off a resistance, sometimes I'll trim half, and then just leave it alone. But had I just left my original ASTS position alone, I would be retired right now and not hanging out with George and working and all that stuff. So,
well, no, you work for the love of the game at Prospero, right?
True. So, man, at 20%, I trim, or resistance, I trim, and then once you've got the original investment that's left over and it's profit, you're playing with house money, man, just let it run. If it's in a bull market. One last thing is that's a great question. I look at a lot at net option sentiment, right? And so if we're in a bull market, SPY and QQQ net option sentiment are bullish. It's better to leave stuff alone, especially if the individual stock looks good in our signals. But say, for instance, like now you've got ASTS, looks amazing, and SPY and QQQ are in the toilet. I'm doing a lot of scalping, but for both negative, I don't make the trade. But that's my unexpert opinion.
It has been super interesting as stocks have pulled back a lot. Even stocks that had looked really good in the signals last year for Prospero, like Robinhood is a perfect example, which I think it's now off like the highs by almost 50% or so. ASTS has not done that, and it's remained strong in the signals. Its strength in the share price has been really interesting to see so far this year. I think it's down just like 15 or 20% from all-time highs versus a lot of other stocks.
It hit 129 at its all-time highs. I think today it's trading at about 95, 96. But the thing is, the upside score is 100. I mean, and that has not wavered in a long time. Net option sentiment with ASTS, if you want, I look at it every single day of my life, and except on weekends. And if it's down in the 80s, that usually means it's going to pull back a little bit. If it's in the 90s, especially the mid 90s, it usually gets on an upswing pretty quickly. And so that's how I trade it.
Interesting. So you're reacting to even just like a 10-point swing in that signal.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's something I've learned, Stephen, is that one of the best ways to use our app is to pick a stock or two and to learn how it trades in the signals. Okay. And so that's one of the ways I made so much money on ASTS is I would watch the net option sentiment of ASTS back in the day. And one day out of the blue, it went from 60 to 70. And I thought, that's interesting. That shows something. That shows that institutions are increasing their call placement. And it kind of stayed there in the 70s, and it had a little bit of upward movement. Then out of the blue, man, it jumped into the 90s. I piled in. And so now I watch it, and it really is, man, even in the course of a day, it'll go down into this, like the high 70s. And sure enough, it'll start pulling back. And then it'll creep back up into the 90s, and it'll start going up. I day trade with it too. It's pretty helpful.
Mm-hmm. NW, I think, is asking you, Matt, did you hold anything still to today from 2022? Eventually rebounded.
No, and that is the biggest mistake of my trading life. Man, that's such a good question. You know, my dad was a fireman, and he was a captain in the Dallas Fire Department. He had his pension. He never invested. So he never taught me anything. And man, one of the things I've learned over the last 4 years is that during bear markets is the time to get rich. I mean, bottom line. And I mean, we had the opportunity of a lifetime in 2022. You had Meta at $82. And wish I could go back on a time machine, sell my house and buy all that. But the answer to the question is, man, I did not hold anything. When everything got green, again, I had so much PTSD. When everything went green, I sold it as fast as I could. I wish I could go back and live life over again. I see the man. He's coming in a minute. All right, never mind. Sorry. Y'all are still stuck with me.
So if anybody in the chat has any questions for us throughout the stream, you can feel free to comment them, and we'll get to them throughout the stream today. JC, I see a new comment. The stock market, the only place where most people fear a sale. Ooh, I've never heard it termed that way before, but that's perfectly said.
A snail?
A sale.
Oh.
How do you want to do this, boss?
You just get up and then I'll go in.
All right. I didn't actually talk about the net option stuff.
Round of applause for Matt for holding down the
All
fort
right.
in the stream
Matt was a
today.
great sub here. Here, I'm nice and centered too. I don't know how that works. Matt's taller than me. Maybe we have a similar torso size. It's the camera's there. It's not this.
Oh.
Then we're good. We're good.
I think, did Matt have a question he wanted to ask George before he went?
Yeah.
or-
Do you have a parting shot here, Matt?
Yeah. All right. So here's my question. On Twitter the other day, we sent out an alert after the big bounce on the 6th that said, hey, is this a dead count bounce? Because the market was going crazy, but net options Senate didn't move. So we're like, do we need to be wary of this? And somebody wrote a tweet that said, your AI signals are always wrong. George, would you explain to our crew why that statement in and of itself is incorrect?
Well, I just responded to that. You can go look at the tweet. I responded to that with the QQQ net option sentiment graph of it showing QQQ net option sentiment getting way ahead of the market dip, right? So I think that's the big thing. It's just I think, A, you never know when someone's a troll. But B, I think sometimes people only pay attention to stuff when it's wrong and it loses the money. And in the defense of people like that, they only do that to themselves as well. But
it's not predictive, though. It just
it's predictive sometimes, but nothing's always predictive, right? That's the other thing. Like, if you expect something to be right all the time, you haven't learned the most important lesson, which is nothing's right all the time, and everything's just another tool in your toolkit.
Oh, and the quote you always say, George, is like you can start a hedge fund being right 51% of the time, right?
Yeah.
If Matt is still here to answer, if George, you want to answer, they were just asking, does Matt do anything else besides the newsletter intro at Prospero?
He alerts me to a lot of stuff, but officially every week that's what he does. And me and him will talk, or these days he doesn't want to talk to me as much. We have a text exchange sometimes. But I like those conversations. We talk about it, and then he goes and writes it.
The chat even knows of his ASTS history. They were asking him for his next pick, and he gave a ticker CMPS. But maybe he's ditching you for the Saudi billionaire he said he met at the Knicks game.
I should have corrected him. That guy never said he was a billionaire.
I looked him up. He's a billionaire.
How do
Maybe
you know?
he just exudes that energy.
His net worth.
The dad or him?
The dad.
Oh, I mean, we weren't talking to the dad. Yeah, I don't know. Maybe. Yeah. I mean, he does have like $100 million liquid in something. I don't know if we're supposed to be sharing these details.
Yeah, probably not. I can give his name.
Yeah.
So we can dive into my first topic for you today, which is the bull market over, George. QQQ and SPY net option sentiment obviously have been super low for a while. And QQQ and SPY, if you look at like the 3-month chart of both of them, they've really just chopped sideways in the same range. So is this what the beginning of an end of a bull market feels like? Or are we just stalling to resume the bull market? Any thoughts there?
Matt's been. Oh, I don't know. I don't know what that is. I'll have to. I was trying to do it. Matt's been bugging me about like the Dow hitting all-time highs without the S&P and SPY and QQQ. I do think that's an interesting thing, but. No, I mean, there's an official, sometimes these questions are, there's an official end to a bull market, an official definition, right? And we haven't hit that official definition. So I'm not going to say that. But we're definitely in like a cautious market. Like, look, I mean, I feel like today was a day that I really played this flip well. I know sometimes I'm unpopular. For making a lot of moves. But, we played the flip well. And that's like, and I did that by going a lot more short than long. I added some longs later. At the end of this, we're not going to do the model portfolio. But I will look at the positions again. See what I want to, trim, add, whatever. But yeah, I mean, I've obviously been playing it more cautious. That's gone pretty well, and I will continue to. I mean, I will say for people that didn't see it or they don't pay for our letter, I did add AMD as a bear pick today, which is it's an interesting shift. I've never seen it so bad in the signals.
So purely signal driven in that sense. I was surprised to see that one too, especially
I've never seen it recently. So bad in the signals.
Wow. Yeah, so that's a concerning thing. I also just noticed today that Micron MU has a larger market cap than AMD by like 50 billion, I believe, or more now, and is up like 330% in the past year. I know we've been covering the SNDK story, and now Micron, I think, is part of the same story. This is like a memory shortage.
Memory so hot right now. Yeah, so Micron looks good.
Yeah, so like, what is the memory? Where is the involvement for AI? This is like, is it like storing all the data, or like where is the term memory? Like, how is it used in this AI narrative?
Well, there's a few things. One of them is that I think there was a lot of obsession with GPU and GPU production, but memory and memory, they're talking about like RAM, like they're definitely talking about RAM. I don't know how much they're talking about CPU as well. I think it might be some of both, but basically like you do still need like to run a lot of like the simpler calculations. You do still need, CPU memory, storage. RAM is like basically how fast you can process kind of like simpler things. It's only more complex things that need to be done on GPUs. So I think as these systems get more sophisticated, I think kind of a lot of the production and focus on that went to GPUs. And as more and more of these data centers are being built, I think I don't think people were thinking about expanding the memory production as much because everybody was like GPU. And then I think it grew a little faster. And I think people didn't realize that memory was actually going to be a production problem until it was. And I think that's what's happening here. And I did just kind of want to see, I did kind of want to pop into Perplexity, like, okay. Let's see. Where is compare MU and SNDK from a value investing perspective? Which one looks like the better buy based on predict?
We have Cairo in the comments saying Tense Torrent is disrupting the AI chip space in a way that will affect both NVIDIA and AMD, as their systems knows how to ignore sparsity in a way that neither firms seem to know how to deal with. Is this on your radar, George? This Tense Torrent?
No. Is it public? This looks pretty cool. I mean, sparse data is always a problem. Interesting. What's like their market share like? I mean, like AMD even has such a micro market share compared to NVIDIA. So I don't think, I'm not sure it's taking any real share, but that's definitely, I mean, just visiting the website, it looks interesting. I just got a text from a friend telling me I was going to be briefed on this. Thank you, Carter. And thanks for tuning in.
So AMD, we didn't actually say the signals. Right now, net options at 44, upside at 58 versus, and actually NVIDIA was still looking good too. So it seems like a AMD problem. Upside 95, net options 79. Net options
people have really turned on AMD. And that might be an interesting, you're always looking for interesting pair trades, right? Like it might be interesting to go long NVIDIA and short AMD.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, so we'll have to keep our eyes on it. Another stock I want to follow up on, because you said on Monday, if this stock dropped on their earnings, you would probably be a buyer. And I believe that's exactly what happened in LEU. So it looks like you got your wish, huh?
Yeah, love to see that. I would be nervous, right? But this is where I use a combination of Prospero and charts. Like not only did net option sentiment go up a bit today, if you check out their weekly chart, right, you see a low of 230 at one point. You see a low at 220 at one point. So yeah, I felt a little nervous, but I feel good about that as like a bottom, right? It's more mature than some of those other weekly lows. And, we did get in, close to the bottom because I wasn't just kind of sure about that. Like if you look at like a half hour chart, right, you definitely see it bouncing off. Like I saw it bounce a couple times off like lower lows than before, but like around 206 it bounced again at a low of 210. It bounced a couple times, one at a low of 207, another low 207.01, 207.54. That's all today on like a half hour chart. So after I saw it bounce, I had that weekly low. That was exactly what I was looking for on an opportunity. And I love things like that because that also came at a time where I was adding a bunch of shorts. So that's always the bigger dream. Like that's always the dream for me, right? If I can look at Prospero signals in good shape and then look at something in the chart that would suggest that like the technical setup or whatever, people see buying opportunities in there too.
And you still have full confidence in like the tailwinds of the nuclear sector. Nothing's changed in your mind with that, right?
I wouldn't do this if I didn't, given how, but like their earnings were not very good. But it's the tailwinds and like the other things that I'm saying. And that's, I think, a good point, right? It's not just the technicals and the Prospero signals, right? It's also that that I like the macro setup for it still.
That's why sometimes I get surprised when a stock like this moves off earnings, because I feel like the narrative for it and the future potential is what's driving the stock, not the earnings today. So what are your thoughts there? Are you surprised when like a stock that's based on this future growth and like support from the administration is moving off like a current earnings report?
Yeah, I mean, so Q1 2025, 1.6 EPS. Q2 2025, 1.59. Q3, 0.19. Q4, 0.79, right? And the 0.79 was a miss. At least the other, like the lower EPS was a bit above, so it didn't have a severe reaction. There's always going to be a reaction to EPS, but I actually think not just with LEU, we've seen some more sensitivities, I think, to beats that were not necessarily objectively good trends in earnings. And I think that was the big thing. I think not only did it missed and it would have been lower than 2-3 quarters ago. So I think people are sensitive to that.
Sam just joined, said thoughts on LEU and iron. We were just actually discussing LEU. Any thoughts, updated thoughts on iron, George?
Iron, I wouldn't like. It's still like cryptos, and I think crypto might have more moves down. I mean, 80 net option sentiment is better than what it's been. There could be opportunity there. If QQQ net option sentiment was at 20 or 30, I would totally look at this as a buy for iron right now. But given that, I feel much safer with LEU. I really like what happened with SNDK. Since I've added it, it took a bit of a hit, but then came roaring back. It came roaring back like partially on a news event. That in this kind of market, especially the news event part, like that's ASTS at a news event last night, right? I think in this market, that's kind of another table stakes for me for a high risk, high growth long, right? I want some structural advantages, which all three of those companies have. And then I want, a positive news cycle. And then, good, like, I really like, if you look at Iron's daily versus, Iron has bottomed out a little bit here. It has some similarities to LEU, but it's just like the structural problems are really what I have an issue with, which is that, crypto is concerning right now. And I think there's a lot of people that I'm talking to on Wall Street that do not think this fall is over. And sometimes perception is everything, right? Because some of those people that do not think the crypto fall is over are the people that in different situations might say, I'm buying right now.
Speaking of perception is everything, I'm wondering if there's like a negative spiral effect going on between this neo cloud sector, which is like the Irons of the world, and crypto, where these companies were purely Bitcoin miners for a while, but they're all spinning to being like AI infrastructure. So as they leave Bitcoin, that causes crypto prices to drop. But when crypto prices drop, it affects those companies still with the narrative of it. And then one by one, it just keeps like spiraling downward where they both negatively affect each other. Like as one of those companies pivots from crypto to AI, it affects Bitcoin. Bitcoin dropping affects them back. Do you think that could be kind of what we're seeing with those companies in crypto?
Yeah, definitely. I mean, partially because, like, yes, there was a dual value to that compute. A lot of them were a lot of them were being valued on the basis that, like, okay, maybe if there's a bit of an AI bubble, there's excess compute there. I mean, which I wouldn't forecast. Then they can be valued as crypto miners. They can go back to that because the way they talk about things, it's really just like their compute is going to go whatever is highest value. And obviously, a lot of them are in AI now, partially because of where Bitcoin is. But I think if there are capacity issues, if there's margin pressure, anything that are worries for a normal business, they always have that other option. So I do think, lack of that other option, if you're doing a risk model, if you're doing a long-term cash flow model that embeds probabilistic risk, it does help to have that kind of dual upside.
Sam is asking about a timeline of Bitcoin prices where we would hit a new all-time high of around 215K in June before a bull trap and a cascade in August. Any thoughts for that?
I'm not feeling very optimistic about 215K in June. But I could see it going like, lower 50K, 60K, and then bouncing hard back up. I could definitely see that. But I wouldn't want to go either way on it right now because, it did bounce pretty hard last Friday. So like, I think it's a risky time to go short. But also a risky time to go long.
I saw last Friday before the bounce, a lot of people were sharing it had like its fourth lowest RSI reading like in the history of it. So it was pretty oversold. So a short-term bounce, I think, would be expected at that point. But yeah, we'll keep our eyes on it. I want to bring up prediction markets again on the stream today because we have some numbers from the Super Bowl and the gold rush going on in that area. So Kalshi downloads rose 1,500+% in the Super Bowl week. They had over $1 billion traded on the platform for the Super Bowl, which was up 2,700% for last year. So I was chatting with Matt a little bit about it before you got here, but the prior generations had JP Morgan, Wells Fargo, Bank of America, and our generation has Kalshi, DraftKings, Robinhood. So that tells you about the state of what's going on in the world, I feel like. And I'm saying that as a joke, but I'm really not. Like, I feel like these companies are where all the attention and energy is going. So what do you make of that? What happens when these gambling and prediction market companies are the culture these days?
I mean, it's kind of crazy. It makes me feel pretty sad about the direction of everything. That you know, that it's like you can't even buy like high risk tech stuff. The odds of winning these Kalshi things are so low, and people don't even understand why these companies are so profitable, because you can basically set the line, you can take these bets, and especially the bets that have tons of options where only one is going to win, you make a killing on that, right? Especially like that's the dream. If there's a bunch of different options and like none of them have that high probabilities, you're almost like guaranteeing, like if you think of 5 options that have a 20% chance, right? The profitability of that. You have a 20% chance, basically, right? And they have like an 80% chance of making good money on something. And even the 20%, they even if they pay out, right, you pretty much break even, right? Because if the odds are even, right, you pay out that 120%, but at all the rest of them, you had like equal payments. So the one hit. But so basically you're 80% chance of having a very good profit in a bunch of 20% chances, right? So that favors them really good. But if you think about being the moron that takes that 20% chance, right, you might as well, put money in, say, like a 6-month option contract, right? Because, that's like at the money. Because the chance of you making money on that is significantly higher than 20%. And it's not some random payout. If you're right, you're going to make a nice multiple instead of just like getting, paid out on your 20% chance. It's kind of like an equal weight multiple. So it's just moronic to invest in that stuff. If you have extra money and it's fun and you're like betting on sports, like whatever, but you have to know how shitty your odds are. And also, like, I know I keep coming back to this, but the bet of like snowfall in New York, like who the hell is betting on that? Unless it's like a hedge because you hate snow and it's like, all right, I'll be miserable, but at least I'll win this bet. Maybe I like that as an emotional hedge, but otherwise it's just like mind-numbingly stupid.
Well, it's just Black Mirror in real life. But a lot of, I feel like even like, venture capital and like business world attention is going to these companies, and they are growing rapidly right now. But I'm wondering, do you think their businesses are sustainable, especially if they're wrecking their users? Obviously, people are going to lose money on these platforms. Like, I think like, I don't know what percentage you would give that can be profitable doing this, but it's got to be under like 10%.
No, they don't care. Like, that's the thing. People love it. Like they think the next payoff is going to be like the thing. Like some people don't care, and I think some people just think they've gotten unlucky and they're going to start winning. They're going to go on a tear, right? I think those are really the only two types of people. Like, I think there's some people that like, because even like I've like listened to like podcasts and things about this. Like, even people that ruin their lives, they're just like, I went on a bad streak, I want to get back in there, and they like do things to target them. No, I mean, Nick, I think there's a lot of money in that type of thing until there's regulations. But I will say the guy that caught him, Kyle Williams, was very nice when he tackled him. And that's definitely like, he had a profit, but like, you never like, yeah, you might get level. Like, I think Kyle Williams was probably smart enough to know that he couldn't level the guy, because I don't know what the liability is. Maybe he could have leveled him, but still, that's a bad look if you like break like a civilian's bones or whatever. But yeah, that's the risk of something like that. But no, like, either they're going to be regulations or like, yeah, like, why wouldn't, like, we saw that thing like where we talked about where like Caroline Levitt like left abruptly right before like the line. Like, why wouldn't you try to make some money off that? I don't think she makes that much money at her job. Like, and that's the problem. It's the same problem with Congress people investing, just a different flavor, right? There's no regulation there. So of course they're going to make money off their positions. So yeah, like, it's going to get a lot worse until this stuff starts to get regulated.
The streaker wore meta glasses, said NW. Moving on from the streaker, I wanted to bring up a few other stocks that are pulling back, and I wanted to get your thoughts on them. I know you bought the LEU earnings dip. These companies also reported and are down. So are any of these interesting to you? We have Shopify, Robinhood, Alab, Unity, and Reddit. Any of those companies interesting on a dip?
Yeah, I'll be watching Alab. But I'm not in any hurry to jump in on any of this stuff. Like, I think I got to watch the market, make sure it's looking a little better.
Two other stocks that haven't reported yet, but are this week that were mentioned in the Discord were NBIS and Coin. And I think I know your opinions on Coin with what we said on the stream today, but anything on NBIS?
NBIS, I think it could do very well. And like it's a great earnings company. It's had some real gangbusters earnings. But yeah, I worry about the state of the market. All right, we got to do some switch things. Is there one more topic or?
If we have to switch, we could just save these Discord questions for Tuesday because the market's closed Monday. But we'll just carry them over.
What day's Monday? All right, I gotta switch.
Sounds good. We will catch George on the other side. Everybody, if you enjoyed, it's a little bit of a wild card stream today. We had the doctor in the house at the beginning. We got story of Saudi billionaires at Knicks games. You never know what you're going to get on the Prospero live stream. So be sure to like it up if you enjoyed today's content. We are going to be joined back by George in just a moment in the Prospero laboratory. And I have these Discord questions, so don't worry, everybody. I will be saving them for our next stream. Yes, JC. So JC just asked Tuesday, Thursday next week. Yes. So the market is closed on Monday. So the streams will be Tuesday, Thursday. I can almost guarantee. Definitely Tuesday, likely Thursday as well. But yeah, let's check a look at the market, see if anything is moving bigly here as we are heading into the close. It looks like the overall landscape of QQQ, SPY up, Dow, and Russell down is pretty much the same right now as when we started the stream. The QQQ and SPY net option sentiment, not much change. QQQ is at 4 and SPY is at 0 here. So the SPY is continuing its flat line at 0. Crazy. We shall see when the SPY, oh my gosh. The next Kalshi bet is going to be when will Prospero SPY NOS raise above 1? Before or after March 1st? Imagine. I actually wonder how it works on Kalshi. Can anybody prop a bet, or does Kalshi the company have to make it? Could we do a Prospero thing on Kalshi? But let's look at how some things are moving in the market. See if LEU has risen at all since George added them. LEU kind of bopping around. It's off the low of the day. It was down 21.5% at one point at around 207 per share. It's up to 212 now. So got to keep our eyes on that one after their wild earnings move. Check in on AMD2, another one we talked about today, which George actually went short, and it's looking pretty bad in the Prospero signals. It's still red on the day, just barely red. Let's see. NVIDIA in the green, Micron up 10% today. So we're talking about Micron as SNDK. Micron up right now, 10%. Wow, crazy. Micron up 40% year to date. Wild moves happening. Sam said a lot happening around crypto, digital coin by Fed. Any update? A digital coin by Fed, like a central bank digital currency? Is that what you're referencing? I have not heard anything about this, if that's being proposed. If anybody in the chat knows any answer to Sam's question, is a central bank digital currency being proposed at the moment? I have not heard. Let's take a look at more things moving. We'll see how Bitcoin is doing today. Bitcoin is currently up $3. Up now, it's down 50 cents. It is basically unchanged on the day. It hasn't moved 0.00% right now. Interesting to see there. Almost completely flat. Oh, I think I saw in the chat that Nick said App is reporting today, so let's check in on App as well. App loving, a wild mover in the Prospero signals and a lot of volatility. Down 32% year to date at this point. Still up 20% over the past year, but it has given back a lot of those gains since its all-time high. It's going to be
Sorry.
interesting to watch. AppLovin has a 97 net option sentiment, though.
I know.
AppLovin reports today.
I've been thinking about adding it. Let's see. Maybe we'll switch it out with something else.
Upside breakout on the rise, downside trending down.
Okay. We are looking at, damn, I'm very proud of the work we did today. Didn't overreact to the down day yesterday. Sitting at a nice yearly again. This is one of the harder markets that I've seen, but I feel like, the version of the market you get is always like a variation of the ones that are close. Like it's never like this market is very different than a year ago. But I think some lessons that I learned at the end of last year are highly relevant for this market.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it seems like a lot of the popular growth stocks from last year are pulling back the most as we begin this year. And more of the ones that are popular, like in the retail social media type space, like the Robinhoods of the world. And I mean, I say them a lot, but they're pulling back a lot. All of those types of companies.
Yeah, those kind of all go down the same day, like irrespective of. Oh, oops. Let me share. Yeah, for those that didn't see, Bill Ackman announced a big position in Meta today. That's why I added it. Got to be up. Crocs holding in there. I'm like, it hasn't been all that exciting, but.
Do you have a high opinion of Ackman, or you think that'll just bring attention to it, regardless?
More of the attention than the high opinion of Ackman. All right, we want to is go a win. Go is a win. SPT is a win. Yeah, we want to get rid of those. And let's see what new stuff we want to add. Ooh, SAP, CNXC. Let's see. SAP really had a bad earnings, and I've been looking, to get in because. Ooh, yeah, let's get in SAP. In SAP for sure. SAP and maybe CNXC. All right. SAP. And then what's going on with CNXC? That's been kind of like a frequent. Oh, 11%. No, thank you. Not trying to catch that. CTLP is a new one. Cantaloupe. Ooh, interesting. It's kind of like low. What does Cantaloupe do? You want to look it up?
What's the ticker again?
CTLP. Cantaloupe.
Cantaloupe, I like the name. It's a digital payments and software services company.
Yeah, I'm loving this. I'm loving this Cantaloupe thing. What's going on with Team though? I kind of love Team too.
Cantaloupe looks really weird. It's like its stock chart is like pinned almost. Like maybe they have a buyout or something. They've been trading like at a very
No, on the weekly, it started to break out downwards. That's what I like about it.
Interesting.
CTLP and then SAP and then Go. And what's the other one? What was the other one I said I was dropping? Sprout Social. Busy day, and this is the last of it. Ugh.
Sprout is an ugly stock chart.
Yeah, but it's coming back a little on that option, so I don't momentum score. And okay, we're gonna do that. All right, now we're done. I got something else to jump to, so I'll talk to you later.
No worries. All right. Thank you, George. Everybody, thank you for watching today. Another Prospero live stream in the books. Appreciate you all. Let me just call out. I don't know if anybody watches these streams from start to finish after they're done being live. So if anybody's watching this in the future, because we do get some views after the stream is posted, leave a comment right now on the stream and let me know that you made it all the way to the end. See JC saying thanks in the chat. Appreciate you, JC, and everybody for watching. I know, Sam, see, that Cantaloupe chart is super weird, right? I feel like they probably had a buyout that maybe, or an acquisition that's now being questioned, and maybe that's why they're dropping. The chart looks super, super weird. It's been like so narrowly traded. I don't know. We'll have to follow up with it. But all right, everybody, have a great week. We'll probably be back Tuesday, Thursday next week because Monday the market is closed. And we will see you all then. Thanks for watching today. Watch the recording when I miss the live. Appreciate you, JC. All right. Bye, everybody. Have a great rest of your day. Talk to you soon.